Hi, everyone. Extremely happy to be recording a new session for you today. And in today's session, we're going to continue our series of episodes on self-sabotage. And we're going to be speaking mainly about the post-traumatic stress disorder today, widely known as PTSD. And every time we talk about PTSD, one of the main things that come to our minds is actually people who serve the military. If not this, we start to think about people who have been abused, like really tragic things that happen to people like rape, assault, or a certain kind of abuse which really stayed with people, all right? But actually, PTSD could be about a few other things as well. Other causes which might have caused PTSD would be near-death experience, or maybe bullying at the school when someone was very young. It could be bullying during adulthood as well, or it could also be about deeply humiliating experience someone has experienced. Okay, now everyone goes through hard times, okay? But how do we distinguish between like a bad incident or an incident which made a person have the PTSD syndrome with him or her? The thing is, every time we think about something bad that happened to us, it brings certain kind of emotions to us. But someone who has PTSD, that event, that tragedy, let's say, stays with the person. I mean, that person can leave these emotions every time the person thinks about it. All right. So let's try to get into the head of someone who has PTSD. All right. So someone who has PTSD is actually someone who is constantly believing that something bad is going to happen. All right. And it's not something having to do with the attitude of the person. It's something that is actually real for that person, and it's called the hypervigilance mode, in fact, where you're really vigilant and you really believe that something bad will happen, and it's all linked to that really tragic event that happened years ago, possibly. Okay, you were so affected by it that you're always in that hypervigilance mode, and you always believe that something bad is going to happen now, and the body is always ready to mount a fear response. Okay, at the slightest sign of trouble, let's say you're driving in the car and you just brake a bit abruptly, and that person will just panic and think that you're going to have an accident and we're all going to die. Okay, so that's the kind of thing people with PTSD live. They're always in that state. All right, and the problem is they can't really feel relaxed because they're always in that hypervigilance mode, always thinking that something bad is going to happen, and that affects relationships also in a bad way, because people with PTSD, they can't be comfortable with someone, and they can't be comfortable with people even if the people actually treat them well, because they can't get out of their head, which is always in that hypervigilance mode, always fearing, always thinking that something bad is going to happen. And since you can't be really comfortable with someone else, it becomes really hard to actually engage with your partner and be in a productive or healthy relationship, let's say. So that's how it undermines your relationship. Okay, so in this way, some people with PTSD, they actually self-sabotaging their relationships because of their mental state. Now, how can we overcome PTSD? All right. Now, first thing we need to have as a reminder is that if someone has PTSD and that person is actually prone to suicide or something very very extreme, then that person should be seeking medical help and actually try to get treatment and have a follow-up with someone, with a medical practitioner, right? But I'll just give you a few pointers, a few cues about what we could do to actually get out of it if we have traces of PTSD, because I believe a good number of people do have traces of PTSD. Because if you're thinking, let's say, about your heartbreak, which happened 5 years ago, that's not normal. It means that you still have some traces of something which affected you a long time ago, and you actually need to do something about it. All right. So I believe we all have certain traces of PTSD, but with some people it's more extreme. So I'm just going to lay out something quite general, which everyone can take and really work with yourself. All right. So one thing we need to understand is that trauma doesn't disappear overnight. Okay. And when you're traumatized, when you have that PTSD syndrome, what happens is you have a certain sense of helplessness. All right. Because trauma leaves you powerless and vulnerable. So how do we get out of that vulnerable state? Okay, which no one wants to be in that state. In fact, one way we can actually try to get out of that state is by reminding ourselves that we have the strength. We have the strength and the coping skills that can get us throughout the hard times. So it's actually trying to, as if awakening the inner hero which is in us. Okay, so we need to remind ourselves that we do have the strength and we can actually get out of it. So that's how our attitude should be. Now, how can we reclaim our sense of power? How do we feel powerful, and how do we feel significant? Because if something like that, if a tragedy happened to you, you feel really bad about yourself. Maybe you think your life is useless. Maybe you think you didn't achieve, or you can't get out of that phase. So how do you actually bring value, bring significance to you once again? One way is actually by going up and helping others, like giving blood to people, reaching out to people in need, taking a positive action that makes that sense of helplessness disappear. Because when you're actually living for people and you're helping people out, automatically your image becomes valuable to yourself, because you feel important and you feel you're helping others. So automatically in your brain, it's switched from you, where you were thinking always about you're thinking about other people now. So automatically you forget that inner critic you've got in yourself. All right. So helping others stays one of the key things, like one of the most vital things you could do to actually get out of a stressful, anxious situation. All right. Second thing would be actually knowledge, like learning about trauma, learning about strategies to cope, doing things. Okay. Knowledge is something very important. It's one of the key things which help people to keep going. So always learn about trauma, research more, join support groups. That would be another one where you can talk about what you're living. And the good thing about support groups is that other people also will be talking about their own experiences. And what's good about it is you really feel that you're not alone, because other people are also living more or less the same things like you. So it gives you a sense of, it makes you feel more comfortable with your pain, because other people are also going through things. Okay, so joining support groups would be a good thing. Practicing relaxation techniques would be another one. You could be doing a sports activity, go outdoor, run, walk, meet people. If yoga is your thing, you do yoga, meditation, breathing exercises. All these things can actually help you to relax, to calm down, and to be grounded. All right. If you have someone you can confide in, then that will actually help as well. But sometimes it's quite hard to have someone who is an active listener. That's why I suggested having support, going to a support group before. But if that's not possible based on where you're located, if you have someone who you can actually talk to and that person is not judgmental, very good, something you could try. And something else would be spending time with positive people. Okay? I mean, that's one of the key things to being happy. Spending time with people who actually think positively, they see good things in life, they share good things, they keep you uplifted, they share good advice, they don't criticize, they don't gossip. So if you can spend time with positive people, you do that. In terms of your eating and drinking habits, make sure you're avoiding stimulants. Coffee, tea, alcohol is something you wouldn't try, you shouldn't try if you're someone suffering from PTSD. So avoid stimulants, avoid alcohol, avoid overeating, spend time in nature. One of the best things to stay grounded is being in nature, breathing fresh air, walking in nature, enjoying the peaceful surroundings of nature. Taking care of your diet would be something else. So we just talk about not drinking alcohol and not overeating, but eating healthily is something very important. Sometimes we try to discuss complex strategies, complex routines, abstract things to do to be happy, but it could actually be as simple as staying healthy, having a positive mindset, and the last thing would be sleeping enough. When you sleep, the body is restored, the cells are repaired. So that's one of the key things you should actually be doing. But now I do understand that if you've gone through something really tragic, sleeping well or sleeping easily might not be that easy, but you need to make sure that you do get enough hours of sleep, and the relaxation techniques I explained or I suggested before, these techniques would actually help you to sleep better. All right? So these would be like the general things, but key things and essential things to actually be healthy and help you to get out of that post-traumatic situation. All right. So I hope that you found that interesting and helpful. Till the next time, bye bye. Lots of love, Girish.